Hey guys, it's Canadian Kyle here at the Wealth Owners Podcast, and today I'm joined with Brad Rourke. He's the CEO of Scottie Resources, ticker symbol SCOT on the TSX. Brad, how you doing today?
Oh, I'm well, Kyle. Thank you very much. And thank you very much for having me.
Thanks for joining me today. So, Brad, I really like to learn about what people were doing when they were my age. So I think it's a good way to start off the interview. What were you doing from 20 to 25?
Big years in my life, actually. And it's quite funny, and only people who've done what I've done will understand. So I grew up in the city, but when I was 18 years old, I took a job tree planting and had never gone camping before or anything. And so 1987, I found myself living in a tent in the most intense situations that you could ever imagine and tree planting. And so that for the most part for about 3 4 years, and I took all these surveying skills, and I was managing people in tree planting quite early because I didn't want to plant those trees. It was so hard, but I ended up getting into managing and running crews and stuff. But I took those skills that I learned from laying out blocks, the surveying skills, and got picked up and started mining exploration services. And I was the right hand man for a guy named Bruce Hobson. And back then it was all physical staking, and but still to this day the best job I've ever had. And we were the premier claim stakers in British Columbia for sure. So, and then that morphed into line cutting and pad building and building camps, and so I balanced between silviculture and the forestry industry and mining services, basically from about 18 years old to 28, 29.
Oh,
Yeah,
very cool.
yeah.
A real outdoors guy.
Oh, I was. I ran the avalanche program at Comess Mines. I staked Comess Mines for Hunter Dickinson at that time. I did a lot of Murray Pesham's staking work in British Columbia, and been on every property and such. But at that time, I was all into skiing in the mountains, and that was going to be my life. And then I got married, and being away for long periods of time wasn't going to work with my wife. So traded it in for a shiny pair of shoes at about 29 years old. Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say when I was doing some research on you for preparing for this interview, I watched the interview with Crux Investor, and I saw you touched on there that you were part of a big IPO in Canada. Do you mind sharing that story with us?
Yeah, sure. So when mining stopped in 98, and everyone thinks it was a Bre-X situation that really put the
Right.
nail in the coffin, but it wasn't. It was Windy Craggy decision, and Bre-X just happened a little bit after that, and everyone blamed it on there. But when mining services stopped, and that's by the end of my 28 or 25 years old to 28, 29, I was only doing mining services. But that stopped on a dime. And because I was from Calgary, I went back to Calgary, and all my friends from childhood had gotten into business and done well. And so in 98, 99, I went and I was running an online grocery store, if
Oh,
you
okay.
can believe it. Uh, I was a manager of it and Sam Colias was funded it, and he's Boardwalk Equities, a big household
Okay.
name in Canadian landlord. He's probably still the largest landlord in Canada, and great people. So I was there for that .com sugar high and the rush, and I was young and had no clue. But I mean, we did a good job at that, and but then when the .com bust happened, when it ended, and eventually found my way into financial services. So I was kind of a sales guy, kind of guy, and
Yep.
started putting in video conferencing systems and installing presentation systems in boardrooms, and then that turned into real estate syndication, and then ended up, gosh, I had my own firm. It would be like an EMD is today. And, in that '03, I guess by that time, and we had 18 people in the shop. But in Calgary, everything was working. Real estate was working. Energy was just coming out of the doldrums. And so we thought we were really smart, but we were really hit the ground running right place, right time. But long story short is probably the one that everyone, or it's been a long time now, but I was on the front end and put together a company called Athabasca Oil Sands,
Oh,
and it was ended up, we IPO'd at $18. I had left since then. I structured it, put it together, put it in much more capable hands. But I was, when it was private, I was the president of it, and so that was quite an event for in our lives, and did a bunch of, we built office towers and stuff in Calgary, and even currently in the city of Calgary, Brookfield manages it, but
okay.
I think we're the largest real estate development in the town of Calgary. It's 900 acres in total, and so I put that together, and I still own a little tiny sliver of that, but Brookfield manages it, and so we did all those sorts of things. But right place, right time. We thought we were smart. It wasn't until after, we've had a couple events, and then I tried managing my own money for a long time, that then you really had to pull your socks up. But really exciting times, and my gosh, just right place at right time, and surrounded myself with, some people who knew what they were doing. So it was a lot of fun. Yeah,
Perfect.
and then when that happened, I don't know, I took 10 years off. Uh, we moved back to Smithers in '06, and for no other reason that we just wanted to raise our kids in a small town, and so we did that, and then that's what brought me to this situation that we're in now, where I was just managing money, and mostly our own, and made an opportunity. I thought, oh, gold's going to come around. We're 5 year into a bear market, and Pritium's office is in Smithers, where I was living. KSM Seabridge, their office is
Right.
also there, but you could just see things are starting to pick up, and so I kind of came off the bench, but now I'm going into my 6th year, and actually I've probably worked harder on this project than anything I've done. So, but it's I'm an accidental CEO of an exploration company.
Okay, so you saw the tides changing then, and that's it. You just decided to start a gold exploration company. Like, any regrets there or no?
Well, no. I started out helping out some local guys who had an interesting story, and even though I was in the service side of the mining industry, you know, I never saw myself going back to penny stocks or such, and I really kind of avoided smaller cap investing. But it was literally my daughter's hockey coach, and he was hammering me for a couple of years, and all right, let me look at it, and I was dominantly investing in energy, and I was getting creamed, of course, because it doesn't matter. It was bad for all of us. So, I just kind of dusted off. I go, okay, well, let me help you guys out. And then going further down that path, it was clear to me that our directions were never going to be the same. And if I wanted to save this money that I'd already invested in this company, that maybe I better give it a shot. And so yeah, we're 6 years into this exercise, so it's yet to be written, but it's getting a little bit more fun now than it was in the first few years.
So
Yeah,
that's what made you do the jump. You were a big investor in it, and then instead of letting it go bellies up, you took on the role as CEO.
100%. Yeah,
Wow.
there's no other way to say it. Like, and I just didn't understand at that time. But what I did is, I saw the macro of gold, and gold, remember, is $1,000, 1,100, coming off that 2011, 12. And I was going, 5 years, and I was looking at it. And if you remember, there were a couple of head fakes in 2016 on gold. So I thought, okay, this is going to work out. It just dragged off, been dragging on a little longer than I anticipated. But I've just taken those headwinds, took advantage of them, because if they're headwinds for me, they're headwinds for everybody else. And that's just opportunity if you can stomach the pain to get through it. But that's kind of how I approached it, and I was more determined, right? Because it was just one of the, I didn't have any other job anyway, so I like, I can do
Why
this.
not?
And the further I got in, I was like, and it took a few years, but I'm really happy we've done it now, and again, we're not out of the weeds or yet, but things are lining up, and I still believe in the same things that attracted me to gold or the precious metals market in 2015 still are the same reasons why I'm here today, and actually probably more enthusiastic now. Uh, During that bear market, I wouldn't have been able to do these deals that we've done up to now if things were good. So even though it's been painful in the long run, I think it might work out better for myself and for the people who've trusted me.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course, of course. So when looking at exploration companies, they always say, look at the region, look at the team, places where gold was found before with teams that have done it before. So what team have you put together on this venture?
Sure. So one thing I didn't have was team in the beginning, but what I did do is um, this past producing mine, which was the core of Scottie, and it is today, existed in banker boxes. No one had ever modeled it. No one had ever. So I think I'm a good sales guy or whatever, and but I took that data. I'm a good sales guy as long as I know if what I'm talking about is real, right? And so I took all that data and I gave it to a company called Equity Exploration Consultants, very well respected, because I knew if their fingerprints were all over my data, I wouldn't have to be sitting there and trying to convince somebody that I know a whole bunch about geology. I can bounce my way through geology, but by no means should anyone listen to me truly on geology. So, I think that was the first thing we did. And at that time, it was me and these consultants, Equity Exploration. So they took this. I actually physically scanned all these papers because I was too cheap. Because at that time I wasn't paying myself. I was self-funding the company for the first few years. I never took any money, and money only went inside of it. So I was pretty cheap back then. But they got this, started modeling it, and then they're going, "Okay, Brad, we want to go relog the core, and we're going to do all these things that the market's not going to care. They're not going to give you anything for doing it, but it needed to be done." And so this would be 2018. Our VP exploration now is Thomas Mumford, Dr. Thomas Mumford, a young PhD, and he was a consultant with Equity Exploration, but his daytime job, his real job, he was running the geology department at BCIT.
Okay.
And so and I'm doing the cooking, and it was a 6-man person camp, and I'm the cooking and cleaning, and and doing whatever I think I can. We got all these geos relogging core and such, and I could just tell this guy loved it, and he was well accomplished with his education, but he just didn't look like academia to me. I'm going, what? He loves climbing mountains, loves all these the extreme outdoors, of which I did when I was younger, and I'm like, why are you in a classroom? Like, what?
Hmm.
Doesn't make any sense. He goes, well, every time I graduated, there was a downturn. So I went and got my master's. When I finished my master's, there was a downturn. And then it was 2013, he graduated his PhD. And I think he had Eagle Plains, Tim Tamunde, great company. And I think that's kind of where he was thinking he was going. But then the downturn happened, got offered a teaching position. And then it just morphed into, he ended up running the program. So I recognized, I said, wow, what have you been waiting for? The right opportunity and such. And so I could tell that he knew the area. He worked on Garibaldi. Equity's been all through the area. So he knew the area quite well. Juggernaut as well as one of these companies he worked with. So he had familiarity with the area. And I just said, look, if I hire this guy, even though he's not a well-known name, you can tell he's
Yep.
dedicated, loves rocks. And if you know geologists, they just love rocks. So he's dedicated with passion. And the other thing that I thought was really smart is going, well, at least he knows who's a good student, who's not, and there's my pipeline for employees. And so he came on and has been full time with us over 2 years now. And so I think that's been a really fantastic pickup. But now we've got 4 geologists that are all at least their 3 seasons on site, right? So it's we've got a great little team. Equity Exploration is still working with us extensively, running the drill program. They also run, I believe, the drill program at Red Chris. and a pure gold, right? So they've modeled it in conjunction with Thomas. So I stole one of their employees. Now they work for Thomas, but it's a really good relationship, and I can't argue with. I mean, we've had two back-to-back great drill seasons, so uh, very lucky of the people I did surround myself with again. Yeah.
Perfect. And let's talk about the area you're referring to, because I'm near the Red Lake district, and a world-class district, and you're at the Golden Triangle district. So do you mind shedding a quick 2-minute overview of the history of Golden Triangle and what was Scottie Gold?
Sure. So, it's a well-known name, the Golden Triangle, much like your district, and it's had some really good past successes, where they're the premier mine, which used to be the world's largest gold mine, I believe. It's just south of me. Everybody knows about the Snip mine, Johnny Mountain, Eskay Creek, one of the richest mines in the world. So those are from when I was running around the bush, those were all happening, and Stewart had 3,000 people living in it in 1990, and I was there all the time. 400 people living in that town now. So it had a whole bunch of past success, but then when mining stopped, everything kind of went away. And Peridium kind of got in there with Bob Quartermain 8-9 years ago, and really, started to really pull up by the bootstraps at the Bruce Jack Lake. So that's been a great success in there. Now you see Newmont just bought GT Gold. You have Skeena going in and taking the Snip mine and SK Creek mine, and having great success. And now you have the exploration success all over the place. You have Tudor Gold combined worth almost $1 billion. There's three entities that own it. Then you have Seabridge, KSM is largest gold deposit on the planet Earth. It's just north of us. So there's a ton of success happening in the area now. So it's even this week, and it's really exciting for me. Is Yamana bought just under 7% of Ascot, which is the old premier mine, and again we touch a
Right.
lot of borders with them. So we're happy for Ascot, and again just happy for ourselves. It's just showing that the area, is gaining the respect. So you have Newcrest, Newmont, Yamana as of late. Peridium is the largest single producing asset on the planet Earth, right? So that's obviously, we wonder if these times happen like we all believe, these majors are all cashed up. Is somebody going to be interested in that? And again, just success begets success. So we're
So
excited. We think we're in the right area for
so
sure.
Brad, why is there so much hot movement and action taking place there now? Like, was there problems before? Like, why is everyone getting in now? What's going on?
Well, I would say infrastructure, the price of the commodity, of course, but I'll start off with infrastructure. Um, Even, one of the real reasons I got involved was Scottie Gold Mine produced a half ounce per ton. It ran in the early 80s. I was smart enough, I could do, really preliminary due diligence, and it was obvious. The commodity price rolled over in the early 80s, right? So we went from $800, $800 for only a short period of time, but let's call it $700, rolled over to $300. You won't have to pick the tops and the bottoms
Yep.
in a very short period of time. But this mine took a $20 million facility from the Royal Bank of Canada. But if you're taking a development loan in 1980, you're paying 22% interest. And so when the commodity price rolled over, it was just too much weight for this gold mine to continue, even though it produced a half ounce per ton with a 10-gram cutoff. So that's what initially got me excited. And now back to the infrastructure is, at the time, Peridium was building a $50 million power line is going right beside this past producing mine. So that's where I was like, okay, you got infrastructure, I'm in, right?
Right. Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of things I didn't understand, of which I've since learned and rectified, but it's been quite an education. But you have, there's a brand new shipping container port in Stewart now. There's the Bruce Jack power line, but there really it's the Northwest transmission line that kind of goes all the way up through Iskit and such. So that was a major infrastructure, which makes this area wide open, right? And again, roads, and if you look at, there's a bunch of run hydropower going up in around the SK, Forest Kerr, and such. So, you know, it just wasn't available before, right? So, putting power, it used to be, if you looked at a presentation, let's just say 10 years ago, and someone would say, yeah, I'm 8 kilometers away from power. And that was a very positive thing. Well, now, we're power lines, we got to make sure the helicopter don't hit it. It's right there, right? And that's the same for a lot of these other entities up there, with the SKs and even SNPs getting, it's quite amazing. That's a big difference. Commodity price. I mean, the cost of diesel, which was a big input costs, back in the day, you can, and it's a lot of hydropower, so it's green energy, which I think is it's going to be an important, right? Because these companies are going to be measured.
For
Eventually they're
sure.
going to come measure all the carbon content of any extraction company. So, these are big advantages, I think. And we think we're deemed to be in a tier one jurisdiction, right? We're politically stable. We know mining. Um,
The
you
First
know,
Nations and the provincial government are fine with that district, and is it all good there?
it's fantastic. Now I've lived most of my life up there, so it's maybe a little bit different my perception than everybody. But yeah, I mean the north is working, which is great.
Yeah,
We're
exactly.
mostly, I have a little bit of Teltan land, and then mostly on the Nishka Nation. I've got 30-year friendships in both communities. I coach sport. I mean, I'm a member of the community, and so it is. I don't need to be told. It's what we'd like to do. Is every available job to the north. Let's find it for the north. So, in fact, these days it's getting harder and harder to find. So it's kind of so far so good. You need to respect these relationships, but again, I don't want to take things for granted, but I'm very happy with how everything's going. Yeah, on
Perfect.
that side. So, you know, so political risk would be deemed low, I believe, for the area. Infrastructure, I mean, these are projects that a little company like me could never afford to bring, but it does make it more interesting for the natural buyers of why we build these things. And then geology, right?
Yep.
You know, it's really an underexplored area. If you go down in Nevada to some of these hotter areas, Red Lake,
Yep.
there's, I have so much things that have never been drill tested with lots and lots of smoke. It's challenging geology. I think people can get too excited too quick because it's everywhere. Like, you find 5 grams on the ground up around Red Lake, you're happy. We've got, 20 grams everywhere, right? and
Yeah.
and 50 grams, and but it doesn't necessarily mean the
It's an
system's a little bit
economic
more
deposit.
different.
Yep.
So it is challenging, but it's not impossible. And again, we're super happy. We've been successful so far, and hopefully we can continue the momentum that we have. So,
Yeah. So let's
you
talk
know
about that success at Scottie Resources from when you became CEO to now. What have you guys accomplished?
oh my goodness. So
A quick overview.
when we first started, it was 400 hectares. Okay, after today's news release, well over 55,000 hectares with 9 past producing mines. We've did all this unsexy work, right? We cleaned up the area first, made it safe. It was, quite a mess. We've, again, relogged all the core. We threw it into models. We've had teams of people, structural geology, and go, look, the opportunity to us was, this was Don McLeod's first mine, and he basically found a mine on surface and started mining it, right? No property wide exploration. Well, quite frankly, I don't think he owned all the land, and I don't know that for sure. But one of the pieces of land, the major pieces of land that we did acquire, and it took a couple of years, was privately held for 30 years, right? So we needed to show runway. Scottie Gold is great, high grade. It's not all in one place. Everybody knows that, but no one's ever really gone and explored. All the drill holes when we did our model are all 60-meter holes, and they're going parallel with the vein, basically underground chasing the vein, right? So have not done any underground drilling. We figure all the good drill pads underground have already been done. And we've done what we see that very little has been work. Go to the top of the mountain and try and hit these veins that we know are east-west veins, hit them perpendicular. You just could never do it from underground. So that's where we saw the opportunity is let's go step out. I could go drill a whole bunch of close holes around Scottie right now and
Yeah.
feel good that I'm going to hit geology, but it's not what we've done. Now we have poked around, of course, but as you can see, we've found a new discovery at the Blueberry vein. We're really focused on the domino on the other side of the Scottie, and even though they weren't bonanza grades, if you look back at our narrative, it's high grade on strike. It is so exciting for us. We just didn't find the jewel box, but with the geophysics and things that we've done this year, we're as enthusiastic as we were from last season because we just proven, you know, same type of rock type, but that high grade gold on strike. Just we didn't get the widths that you want, but we see that on the Scottie side too. You have to find these dilational zones, and what we in the past when the vein pinched out, they'd stop. But there's a gentleman named David Reese, well-respected guy. His theory was Scottie's just like Snip. As long as you have gold on strike, you got to keep going along strike, and then you'll find these dilational zones or sigmoidal loop, or But at the end of the day, they're just these blowout zones, is how you'd say it to a younger person, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So that's the theory we were working on. We're excited that we hit it there, but then, like I say, so we just didn't focus in around the gold mine because we go if we can show a pathway to a multi-million ounce deposit. I know we're not going to be able to have a resource of 1 million ounces in the first couple of years, budget, and we're still exploring, right? We're still putting our theories to test. We couldn't have, I did 7,000 meters last year, and I had a lot of money left over, but because I didn't have assays, there's no way I had the confidence to keep drilling
Hmm.
because we just hadn't stepped out until we saw those holes. Now when we saw the results back, I wish I would have put another 4,000 meters in, but that you got to mitigate that risk. So
Yeah,
we
for
had a
sure.
problem with assay labs, as most companies did, and yeah, but now we have confidence. We can, again, I'm not going to go do 50,000 meters, but you know, we've got a 12,500 meter plan just for Scottie. And if we had, if somebody really wanted us to do more, we certainly could and have confidence, right? So that's exciting. So those are, baby steps. Check these boxes. We're patient.
Hmm.
Uh, Game's not on now anyway, so this is great for us to, when the time's right, it'll work for us. But
Yeah.
so really excited with Scottie, and
And
we
now
have a
let's
whole
get
bunch
into
of
the
other
new
lands.
news. You got some new news. Why don't you go ahead and share that? And maybe I'll phrase the question like this. It's like you merged with AUX Resources. So talk about the importance of merging exploration companies together and really the synergistic opportunities given with this merger.
Sure. So when I first got involved, and because of my contacts, I just went top down. I just went to all, hey, I got this past producing gold mine. I went and saw all these bigger entities I could get in the door. But one of my first meetings was with Peter Brown, and I'm like, hey, is I smart? And they're all like, that's way too small, right? There's no, and I'm like, oh, okay, so go back to the drawing board, and so I just kept patching these proverbial holes in the boat. Um, but one of the big problems is I've probably done I've done over a dozen transactions, and they're geological systems, right? But the way the staking is there's potentially three people own one system, and you can never get anybody to agree to work together, right? And so the real investors in this going, well, I can't deal with those types of situations. So accumulating all these lands like we've had when the times were bad is now we can sit there and go, because one of the comments I was hearing from some of these people that I would take my advice from is like, God help you if you find something, right? Because it has to be meaningful. So now we've, I guess, taken that out where if we find something, we kind of have these potential systems of which we've got, we've got our ideas, and we've been working on it for a few years, and And so putting these lands together, and understand, I was on the board of AUX, so it's not
Mm-hmm.
something I didn't know. And I tried to buy AUX. It used to be called RMX, from even two people who before, from Wayne and Judy, and then Lawrence, and that had it. So I tried to, I'm very familiar with it. Uh, but if you look at the map, and we won't pull up a map here, but it just fits all like a glove, right? So contiguous land matters, and the reason it matters is even if I focus a work program on a certain area, if that land all touches, that work applies to all that land, so it makes it easier for us to hold. So there's synergies there, and then of course the G&A, right? The CEO, the CFO, we're just put it all together. We're doing it anyways. We feel we're we're a very respectable geological team in the area. We know, we've been looking at it for years. And so, and a lot of the bigger guys saying, just going, the more you can consolidate, bigger is better. And so I just going, I'm going to try and give the people what they want. If plan A doesn't work, our optionality is great, right? Because we've got, we think that we have three really, really areas, and maybe possibly four, but we have a high degree of confidence. Scottie Gold Mine's great in around our properties called the Independence and Silver Crown, but you have the old Red Cliff mine there, right? And
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
that's all. So we're really excited about that because there's a lot of information about Red Cliff. And then down on our Georgia River property that was AUX, we had some extraordinary success there this season, and so and then there's four other little mines that they're all from back in the old day when these guys would pick it out with pickaxes, but there's a system there, right? But it used to be owned by five people, and so you just have a better chance of making something work, right? And rather than having something in it just runs off into somebody else's land, and it's just hard to get
Yeah, of
the
course.
the stronger hands to buy into that concept. So we'll
So
see.
yeah, from
So if plan
400.
A doesn't work, I think we have a pretty solid plan B because Scottie's well on its way. Scottie is a permitted mine with, you know, again, nothing's compliant. I'm not allowed to say numbers, but it's pretty good, right? And we'll have a great idea by the end of this season on if we were to put a resource, what we could put together. But I can say things like there's a non-compliant resource, just under 70,000 ounces. We have a tailings at 160 tons with 2.2 grams recoverable. And then all the drilling that we've done, and there was a drill program. Last time Scottie was drilled was by Bruce McLeod from Sabina. It was his dad's mine. He's the only guy who's actually ever gone back there, which means, of course, around the campfire, they're going, they never ever gave up on Scottie. And he drilled it when gold was $600 an ounce and the Canadian dollar was at par. There
Mm-hmm.
was no power line. And I believe, now you'd have to ask Bruce, but I believe he was thinking he could just high grade that one vein that was producing and move that down to the Premier Mill. But Premier was closing down the West, I think it was called West Dome, but it just closed down and it just never worked. But we look at his drilling and we going, oh my gosh, it was fantastic.
Yeah.
But gold 1,700, and but even when it was 1,200, was better than 600 in the dollar at parity. So we figure he did some really good work helping us along. Yeah, so Scottie's really special. Again, you drive right up to it, power line goes through it, and it's permitted. There's not many exploration companies say they have a permitted mine. It'd be similar to Barkerville, right? Barkerville had a small mine permit. We do. It's a small mine permit, so it allows 75,000 ton a year.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
but it's for the right person, that quick path to recouping money might be of interest. Yeah,
So from 400 hectares to 55,000 hectares,
thousand.
what's your plan for 2021? Where you putting all your energy into?
Well, as it stands right now, we're going to drill 12,500 meters at Scottie. We haven't finalized how much we're going to go do at Georgia River, but we're certainly going back to Georgia River. and then we're going to drill at the Independence in around that Red Cliff area, and that's 3,500 meters, and that's never been drill tested, right? So
Okay.
we could be a VMS. There's a whole bunch of smoke there. So we go, we feel really comfortable. We'll get great numbers at Scottie. We're feeling comfortable. We'll get great numbers. I mean, gosh, you can miss, right? You're putting straws into the ground, but we still have to be confident. And so we feel confident and then excited to go drill test something that hadn't been drilled before. But we have all the evidence. We're not just throwing darts. We put a lot of time and effort into these things. So it'll be an exciting year. But the focus is Scottie. I mean, that's a lot of value there. And so, for the most part, the AUX people are going to get a little bit of Scottie and understand the big shareholders of AUX are the same big shareholders of Scottie, right? I
Yeah.
won't get the vote, but I own 3 million shares of AUX. But Eric Sprott owns 20%. Eric owns 8.7% of Scottie. We've got a Swiss family office owns 10%, 9.9% of both. And so we didn't do this unless asking our bigger people, is this something we think it's a good idea? What do you think, right? And so we have the support. Ian Slater's a big shareholder, so it's a lot of the same, a lot of similarities in shareholder base. So when we get worried about dilution, I'm going, well, these bigger, I have so much encouragement from my big guys going, yeah, the stock price hasn't gone up, but they recognize that we had a really good season. It's
Hmm.
just can't fight the market and the sentiment's bad, but they're still very interested now. So as long as we keep them interested, we should be fine. Yeah, and it's nice to have Eric in there, and like I say, the family out of Switzerland, it's a mining shop. They've that's what they do, and so
Right.
they're speak with them once or twice a week, and so they're happy.
So how, okay, because I was looking into AUX as well as Scottie when preparing for this interview, and CEO of Scottie, director on AUX, your Thomas you were just talking about, he's also a technical advisor for AUX, correct? So
Correct.
you guys have been bumping elbows a lot for quite some time, and now you guys are merging together, but it's really like you're getting shit done. If you look at from when you started at Scottie to where it is now, for the young listeners out there, like you're a businessman. Like how do you create value? Like how is this? How do you progress? If that makes sense.
Well, you know what? I told you I didn't listen to any of yours, but I did listen to about 5 or 10 minutes. I think it was Greg Smith, and it was like, oh, I forget, eat a small shit or a big shit or something like that. It
Yeah,
was
yeah,
some weird question. He didn't understand it. I didn't understand it. But then I thought about it, go, I do, right? Like,
yeah.
you're going to get into it, go fearless, right? I mean, I have conviction. I truly believe the macro side of precious metals. I truly believe, we're going to get, deflated out of our dollars. I truly believe that regardless of crypto, of which I'm a proud owner of Bitcoin and have been for longer than most people even knew about it, right? I'm
Okay,
happy,
wow. Yeah.
right? But it's not replacing gold. They're two different things. I believe in the macro. And so it's just a matter of time. And, I've been blessed that again, I can withstand these things. I'm not truly making my living off this company, although I'm putting my living in it. I'm 12. I've never
Yeah.
worked harder. It is quite funny. And then with COVID, now you feel guilty if you take 15 minutes off, if you don't work 12 hours a day because you're just strapped. I'm here. This is where I live. My wife doesn't want to hear my voice all the time. So, but you can, in times, and sometimes it's hard. Like, make no mistake, right? I'm just a high energy ADHD guy, but it's been gut wrenching for the last 6 months, only because the 5 years to get here, and we just we're so pleased with ourselves with our drill program, and I'm down 50%, and so, but when you lead people, then maybe I learned this from tree planting, right? I don't know, and I do think tree planting was probably one of the best things that ever happened in my life, because life is horrible, but if you're managing 50 or 100 people, you can never show that. You just got to go, look, it's all about attitude. There's going to
Mm-hmm.
be good days. There's going to be bad days. If you know what you know, you got to have conviction. So, and then because all my, we're letting all our core employees, of course, participate in the company and we incentivize them. I've got to, they haven't been through a few of these things. I've been through a few of these things, right? So it's still not fun, but I have faith, and so you just got to get up in the morning and go, okay. And what for me, it's just, yeah, it sucks, but that means there's some other guy sleeping in an extra half hour because it sucks for him, and I'm gonna go eat his lunch,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because that's when the opportunity, literally, we're gonna look back at these deals that we've been accomplished in a bull market, and you're just gonna go, oh my god,
Mm-hmm.
that's and I truly believe that. Now, maybe I'm proven wrong, and but I got conviction. I'll be the last man standing, and there's, I got more fight in me yet. So
For sure.
I think good times are coming. I'm excited. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
So
I didn't even hear
times
of.
are bad. There's people keep their head down and think of all the bad things, and you're going, yeah. And all
Mhm.
you have is your attitude, and so let's get at it. Like, am I throwing the towel in on mining? No, gosh, right? You just look around. Hard assets are going to be very, very important. Yeah,
Oh, for sure.
yeah.
Yeah, I invested a lot in them too.
Hmm.
I didn't even hear of Scottie Resources before, and then looking into it and looking, and now you guys and Ascot and Peridium, like if you look at the land package, you guys are making a name for yourself now.
Yeah, we're yeah, we're one of the larger players in the southern end
Yeah, the
of the
southern. Yeah,
triangle, and there's a lot of efficiencies to do it. I mean, we can't. I love being compared with Peridium and Ascot, but I mean, we're at a whole different part of the
yeah,
Lassonde curve. Like, we're at the bottom of the S curve
yeah.
over here, and then you have Ascot, the second part of the S curve, moving up, and Ascot's a steal right now. I actually bought quite a bit of Ascot last week at 85 cents. I didn't know Newmont was or
Yeah,
Yamana was
man.
coming
Yeah.
in, but you're not going to get a 10x out of it. But my gosh, that thing's pouring gold in 2 years, right? And they're
Hmm.
funded, and then Peridium, of course, is something special, right? And I've just seen naysayers on that because I live there, right? I heard for 5 years how Peridium's not going to be good. Oh, it's just that the other, and all I said is put $1 billion into it. It's like a golf course. The first guy doesn't make money off the golf course. The second guy comes in, or the third guy, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
that infrastructure is built. This thing, it doesn't matter if the guidance was off and it's 14. I'm sure it's not fun for the people who got in, but I'm going, once infrastructure is in place, you're going to utilize that infrastructure, and that's really what I kept it pretty simple. I'm going, this is going to happen. So I'm really pleased that I just hope everyone has to keep talking about Ascot, Premium, and then they say Scottie, because we're
Yeah.
a
Look at
little
this
further
property.
down the
Yeah.
curve. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
No,
but
of
we'll be
course.
there. We're going there. That's what our goals are. Yeah.
Hmm.
So
Well, thanks. Thanks, Brad. I think it's time for the vault now. I've been
okay,
really enjoying this segment. I usually don't make it available on YouTube because I'm trying to get my like and subscriber count up,
I
but
see.
the questions are good. So let's get into it. That's
Will
what.
always be there, especially to a young person. And I'm sure, like, I haven't watched all your interviews, but guys must be pretty gracious. Like, I'd
Oh
imagine. I
yeah,
saw
it's
your list
it's
up.
it's crazy. I have a pretty good list so far of individuals, and I would have never expected them to be so gracious. And I always ask the same questions at the end because it strips them down to the human nature. It's just questions that you would teach a young guy. You just ask them questions. It's not about the company, not grilling you on your drill results. It's hey, I'm looking for advice. Do you mind providing me some? And it's been amazing. So the vault has been it's been really good.
Well, you have interviewed some pretty impressive people, so I'm happy. For you to give me your time, but you know, you can never ask enough questions, and all you gotta do is ask for help, and someone will help you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it truly is not that difficult. It's just hard work.